Let's see. First off, we have Collector's Theme, official soundtrack from the Dead Cells soundtrack. Once again, everybody, this is Basterd's LFA, a layman-friendly analysis. I am a professionally trained musician. I will be explaining things in as layman terms as I possibly can of what is happening musically so that you don't have to be a professionally trained musician to understand what is going on here. This is recorded live, so there's going to be a lot of pausing as I do this. Like, we're going to be reacting to this live. If you like this, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're following, liking, sharing, all that good stuff. Join the Discord. Check all the links down below, etc., etc. So, with that said, let's get started. Collector's Theme from Dead Cells. Let's go. Okay, I like this. I like this. We usually pause around this 5-6 second mark because this is where I start catching things. So this is really nice. We start with a very, very simple. I think it's either a cello or a double bass with a kick drum, and when the cello plays, I think it's a synth. It's either a synth or another string. Let me hear it again. It's a synth with some. Okay, so we are building rhythm. We're establishing rhythm over here. By the way, I've never played Dead Cells. It's one of the games that I really want to play. So we have this, and we're establishing a very, very straightforward 4/4 measure, 4/4 rhythm. Of course, 4/4 is the most common time signature. This is what is called a time signature, where the upper number is the number of whatever is at the bottom. So in English, it's extremely easy because of how the notes are named. You have, for example, whole notes, you have half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, so on and so forth. And these are represented here as 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, so on and so forth. So a 4/4 means that there are 4 quarter notes in a measure. This is Musicians 101, and this is a very, very straightforward. What we're doing with this is that we are having the kick drum highlight those quarter notes while the cello, I believe, and the keyboard are playing those whole notes, and we are getting a very, very simple but setup, a very, very simple, straightforward setup. Let's see where this goes. Now we're adding some. Ooh, okay, so this was a very interesting way of changing things. We started on what sounded like a 4/4, and we had some adornment being done. We have like a guitar, sounds like also a sitar. We are having these different like a music box playing at the same time, all of them kind of taking turns, like going round in a circle. And this is a very special time signature. I love this time signature because it's not 4/4. This time signature is what is known as a 12/8. Now, 12/8 can also be written as 4/4 with what is called triplets. Triplets are a bit more advanced. A triplet note basically means you are playing 3 notes where you would usually play 2, or where you would usually play 1. So, for example, in a 4/4 bar, you have 4 quarter notes. Each quarter note is composed of 2 eighth notes, unless you decide to make them triplets, in which case it's 3 eighth note triplets that will make a quarter note. A simpler way of writing this is by just making the measure a 12/8. 12 being 12 eighth notes per bar. And you just subdivide it that way. So instead of going with quarter notes, you are going with quarter notes and a half per beat. So it still gives you that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 feeling, but the subdivision of that, it's no longer 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4. It gives you this more of a dancing feeling. A 3/4 is also a valid way. Like, many of these are kind of interchangeable. But for example, why was this in the... This is not what I wanted to do. For example, if you want to do a 3/4, for example, there are not really any measures that you could have odd numbers in the bottom. That's not very standard. It's extremely rare, especially because the bottom number is determined by the type of notes that we have. So a 3/4 would then mean there are 3 quarter notes per bar. And each bar that you have is going to have 3 quarter notes. You can subdivide those into triplets if you want, but it's still going to have a 3 feeling over it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Again, it depends on how you make the tempo being how fast or slow these beats are. Because a 3/4 playing at 120 beats per minute is going to pretty much equal a 6, or what do we say? A 3/8 at 60. So all of these are relative. It's just a matter of what makes it easier to notate in sheet music, because it's one thing to have a bunch of 3 bars, very, very small, but if the rest of it is a lot bigger, then it makes more sense to do something like a 12/8 or something like that. This is more on the compositional, logistical side, where we are talking about the individual notes being written down on paper. So it is perfectly possible that the composer here is doing everything on 3/4, and he's just doing it at a very, very high BPM. I would write this as a 12/8, considering how all the whole notes are being held and how everything is being played every what feels like 4 beats. And in this case, the beats are subdivided in 3s, so it's simpler or easier for me to just notate this on a 12/8 rather than make it very fast bars of 3/4. It's gonna make basically the same feeling. You can basically make the same feeling with it. It's just a different way of notating things. If we put it into simpler terms even, it would be, for example, what kind of punctuation you're using. There are many ways to punctuate things pretty much the same way, or what kind of brackets you're going to use, whether or not you're going to use parentheses or brackets or the weirder brackets, whichever ones you want. That's more or less where this would be going. Let's continue. Okay, so we got Okay, now we brought in the cello with our motif. The motif being that essential, smallest version of your musical idea, the essential version, the smallest version of it, of your musical idea from which everything else sprouts from. And we have that over this, I consider 12/8, because it still gives us that feeling of 1, 2, 3, 4 over smaller subdivisions that still make it feel very like a dance feeling. And something also that is very important is that before the cello started playing here, we had build-up of the accompaniment in a way that I love doing build-up of accompaniment. Layering the accompaniment. Because, for example, this accompaniment has been several layers. So we have, for example, the drums, we had the guitar, we had the zitar, and then we had, it's either a bass or a cello slash cello. And you had these 4 layers before the actual motif started playing. So a nice way of doing this and filling up a little bit more time is to introduce only some of the layers at the start and then build up more. Like, let these 2 layers loop a couple of times, then you add another layer, then you add another layer, and then you can start with the solo instrument, which is what has happened now with Collector's theme. By the way, I think the composer is Johan. I forgot to mention that. So, and there's a lot of very small details going on at the same time. Oh. And there's another cello over here. I think it's a double. I think there's 3 cellos going on right now, which is a very tricky thing to do, because cellos can overpower themselves and muddy themselves so much if you try to do counterpoint. But this is very good. Let me hear this again. Okay, it's 2. It's 2. Yep. Jon Nolan, thank you. Okay, so yes, we had this. We started the motif with a solo cello, then we brought a second one. Fairly rare for people to do this kind of stuff. Usually when it comes to the structure of some of these ensembles, one of the more common ones is going to be a string quartet. You know, you have 2 violins, a viola, and a cello. It's fairly rare that you're going to have even 2 cellos or something like that. I haven't heard any violins or violas in here. So we have 2 cellos, which is a pretty dominant instrument. There's a reason why in orchestras you will have a lot of violins. First off, because of the size of the instrument. A cello is several times the size of a violin or a viola. And the double bass is going to be several times the size of a cello, right? Like, these instruments scale in a very strange way. But that is what we get, right? And usually you will have, for a section of violins, you will have 10 violins for every 6 cellos that you get. Like, the ratio of how many violins you need to balance out the number of cellos and double basses can be pretty significant. So adding 2 cellos to this ensemble is a very deliberate, somewhat risky maneuver because of how strong the cellos can be. Of course, now we have the luxury of digital instruments, and we also have the luxury of being able to mix things however we want, so we can manipulate how loud or how quiet these instruments are. Especially considering how the main cello with the motif started front and center, and when the second cello came in, it panned out a little bit to the left, so that the other cello could be on the right, which is a very, very common thing to do when you're doing counterpoint nowadays. Panning just means which speaker or which headphone is going to have the priority of the sound. So you have left, you have right, and it's just how much more the sound is going to go, because we had the cello first sounding pretty central because we had cello number 1 over here. Then when the second cello came in, it moved the first cello a little bit closer to the left. You can still hear it from the right side, but now on the right side we had cello number 2, giving them the impression of being one next to the other, when at first the first cello was kind of front and center. A very, very cool, I keep pressing the wrong button. Very, very cool way of using panning, and I love it when people do these kinds of little tricks like that. Let's continue. Oh yeah, and now we had a very, very interesting change. I almost forgot about this. So we had this the cellos cadencing, and now we went from the cellos being the main instrument to being the accompaniment, and now we have these drums, and I think it's another. Let me. Yeah, it's a drum. It's a pitched drum. It's a pitched couple of drums, almost like they are bongos going back and forth, giving this little melody, a very, very lovely dancing melody that gives you the impression of a call and response. Call and response, of course, being the when one instrument or one line or one entity in the ensemble sings or plays one thing and another one responds immediately. And what we're doing right now is extremely simple. This is incredibly simple. We are just noting the measure. We're just going through the measure with this, but it's being done in a very, very beautiful way, because the cellos are playing what is called a downbeat. A downbeat is the heaviest when the measure starts, basically. When the measure starts, or halfway through the measure, or on the beat. That's called downbeats, right? Like the downbeat is, in this case, it would be the first point, the first beat, and the halfway point. So we have the cellos taking us from what started as a 4/4, then a 12/8, now to what feels like a 6, because now they're playing the downbeats. So when it started with 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 ta ta 2 ta ta 3 ta ta 4 ta ta, now we're going with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it's giving us this more waltzy feeling, when at the first it was kind of just giving us a very nice dance throughout the whole thing. Now it's giving us a more traditional sounding. And in between, while those cellos are doing this thing, which is a very, very common thing to do in waltzes, that the cellos and the double basses would play those downbeats, and the other instruments would play the rest of it, the upbeats, which in waltz is boom, bum, bum, boom, bum, bum, boom, bum, bum, boom, bum, bum. That's waltz. That's how you get in waltz. And right now, we're getting something fairly similar, because the cellos are playing what is called an ostinato. An ostinato, let me write this here. An ostinato is when you get an instrument to play the same thing over and over, to just repeat the same thing over and over again. Not to be confused with a drone or a pedal note. Drones and pedal notes are almost interchangeable. The difference is that a drone and a pedal note are something that you hold together. And usually a drone will have more than one note to it. A pedal note, same thing, it's just one note that is being held. An ostinato is a phrase or a measure or something that is not just holding the same note. In this case, it's just playing one note at a time. Bong, 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 bong. And the other instrument, in this case, it's the this percussion at the top, giving us this faster than a waltz, because a waltz usually is 2 more beats after the downbeat. Boom, bum, bum, boom, bum, bum. This one is giving us 3. Ta 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 ta. It's giving us 4. So it's giving us a smaller subdivision. So instead of boom, bum, bum, boom, bum, bum, we're getting boom, ba 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 ba, boom, ba 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 ba, boom, ba 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 ba, boom, ba 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 ba. We're getting that. So it gives us a faster sense than a waltz would usually give us, which in a very subtle way just speeds up the perception of this piece while still keeping this dance-like movement. Like you're still in a hall, but things are speeding up in such a subtle way. I like it. Very nice. And now we are changing chords. And yes, we are having the cellos doing not just the ostinato, but they are also doing a nice tie-in together when they finish their set of measures. So it's not just the bong, 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 but they're also having an extra little bit, like a tail end of the phrase, which is reminiscent in many ways of that initial initial motif that we had when the cello first started playing. It's very, very common to use in this kind of situation because of how pretty it is. It's very elegant, it's very effective, it does its job very, very well, and it's not very complicated. Ooh, hang on. There, I forgot to turn off a thing on my interface. There you go. Let's continue. So yeah, now what we did here with the change of this chord in music theory. This is what is called sequencing. You are taking a musical idea. You are taking a phrase. Usually we call them phrases or whatever you want to measure or anything, and you just move them somewhere else within the same scale that you're in. Because it's the same musical idea, we are just taking it in a relatively different spot. So we have the concept of 7 notes in a scale, and then it starts again with what is called an octave, and we started on note 1, and the phrase goes wherever. Sequencing just means next time you can start it on note 2 or 3 or 4, and it's the same type of progression. So, it could be like a 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then if you want to sequence it up, so now instead you started on 2. So it was 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it's going to be 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to be the same overall shape, except you're just starting it from a different point in this scale. And in this case, it has been such a simple pedal note, ostinato phrase that we've been having that has been very, very pretty, to the point that, yeah, let's just do it again, but differently. And now we go back to the cellos. Let me go back a little bit. So the sequenced phrase, and it's building tension, and we cadence to the cellos, bringing us again. So structurally speaking, this has been pretty much an ABA. A very, very straightforward. We had a small intro. Then we had A with the cellos doing their thing. We had B, which was this nice waltz-esque bit, which cadenced up to our A prime with our cellos going back to this. And we have those 2 cellos just playing again the entire melody. And we are doing the opposite of what we did. So for the outro over here, at the beginning, we started with 2 layers, then we added a 3rd one, then a 4th one, and then we started with the melody. Now we are doing the opposite. For the outro, we had all the layers, and we are slowly taking them away. The melody is still continuing, and it's probably going to die down until the... There you go. And there you go, right? So it's a very, very simple structure that we had over here, but it was very, very effective at what it did. It was very elegant. It gave us a very nice theme, a very, very beautiful motif. It had a very, very solid structure. It had some variation, and it was short and sweet. Very, very short and sweet. It had some very, very nice elements of counterpoint and messing with your perception of what rhythm it is. Because at the start I was like, okay, this is 4/4. Wait, no, it's 12/8. Now it's 6/8. So it had this very, very nice sense of progression without having to do that much with anything else. Everything was very, very subtle. The way things changed were extremely, extremely subtle. I really liked this. It was really, really good. So there you have it. That was the Collector's Theme Official soundtrack from Dead Cells, composed by Johan Laulan. Very, very good stuff. I really enjoyed this. It's very short and simple, but still very, very, very well made. Short and sweet, I would say. So there you have it. Once again, everybody, this is a Basterd's LFA, a layman's friendly analysis. We record these live on stream, but if you're watching this on the YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you like the video, share, all that good stuff. Join the Discord and catch these live. If you want to request a song and you're not watching from the live, you're watching this on YouTube, just leave a comment down below with what song you want us to do. Video game music only, because of copyright. It's easier this way. And there you go. Very good stuff. There you have it. That was the Collector's Theme Dead Cells OST. Very, very good stuff. But yeah, let's move on.